This right here is my piece of shit. Let me show you some of the features. Some of the features it has include rust holes, this mesh chicken wire that's painted that came on the car. I didn't do that. Dents. To be fair, I did that one. The exhaust that decided to half fall off like a couple weeks ago that I'm just too damn lazy to fix. Bacon fenders. Love it. Non-existent rockers. You can see the rust hole right there. A trunk that does not pop until you go around and lift it up yourself. Air conditioning that does not work. 208,000 miles. And you can't tell right now, but below half a tank, the gas gauge doesn't work. Broken center lid thing. Still kind of works. Ish. Sagging headliner everywhere with cigarette burns. Shift cable on the ground. And last but not least, the least consequential of them all. Can you see it yet? Different color mirror caps. But in all seriousness, the reason we're working on it today is that sensor down there. It's the range selector switch, and I'll show you what it does right now, but we gotta change that out. The main symptom of our issue is here today. The car is in neutral, so when I go to put it into park, like, you know, you're on a hill or in a parking lot somewhere, go ahead, you put your foot on the brake, you move it into park. Oh look, it's still in reverse. No matter what I do, move it every sort of which way, it's still in reverse. And obviously the car is off right now because I'm sitting in my driveway, but even with it in park, the thing still rolls backwards. Ignore all my oil leaks, but this guy right here, or I guess I should say up here, is what we're getting to. So we're gonna take that nut off, and there's two 5mm Allens after I pop this linkage off. So I will do my best to show you what I can, but it's a little tight under here, so I will try. There's this little weird shaped clip that goes over the shifter linkage right here. So just pry that off with a screwdriver, and it can go flying. So I know a guy who sent this flying, and took him about 45 minutes to find it, wasted a bunch of time. Don't be like that guy. It was about 5 minutes ago he did it, so I knew it was it's pretty big paying, because it was a pretty recent event. Alright, so after you struggle with 200,000 miles of this being stuck on there, you're going to take a 10mm wrench and put it up on this tab. I can't really get my hand up there. That tab right there. This little guy that's moving up here. See it? Right above the bolt. That's to counter hold the shaft that goes into your transmission so you don't overstress it and break it and cost yourself a lot more money. But the main nut on this thing, ow, it's still hot. The main nut is a 21mm and a 10 fits on that. So you're gonna wanna crank on the 21 while counter holding with the 10. And smack in the middle of me taking that nut off, this is what I get. I love it here. And it got worse, so might as well make the best of it. To make it a little easier on myself, I actually just pulled the whole airbox off. It's super easy. I loosened both these hose clamps and there's 3 grommets holding it in, just pull up real hard. But you can see I have infinitely better access to right here. This is zip tied together, so I gotta cut it, but I can very easily get to it from the top with a wrench with this out of the way, so I'm not trying to work upside down under a car. All right, so after messing around with the 10mm, it just kept slipping off that tab. So what I ended up doing is the old trusty adjustable pry bar here, my bad, sorry. Holding up the underside of that lever arm and against this bracket right here while I hanked on it. It wasn't too tight, but the 10mm kept slipping off that tab, so I had to get a little creative with it. But it came off, not too bad for being as rusty as it is, but just had to get a good solid base under it so it didn't rotate and snap the piece in the transmission, because that would have been a set this car on fire type of job. But after you get that nut off, there's not much holding this on. It's just a little crusty, so I'm gonna spray it with some WD-40 and just try to work it back and forth with a screwdriver. It doesn't matter if you damage this sensor, you're replacing it anyway, so you can pry against it, but you just gotta get this lever off and then these two 5mm Allens and then put the new sensor on and we should be good to go. As you can see in my adventures of prying, I kind of roached the sensor, but if I can get this thing off after it's been in the Northeast for 200,000 miles, you should be able to get this off no problem. And it's keyed, so it only goes on one way. You don't really need to worry about the orientation. So the sensor is off. I got both the Allen bolts out. They didn't give me any fuss. Just be careful with them, because Allen keys that have been there for a while, they kind of like to strip. Trust me, I work on German cars. I know they like to strip, but these ones have that little knurl on them, so you can make a vice grips the Allen key if you need to, but thankfully didn't have to do that here. And here's the old sensor. So got a little bit of rapid unscheduled disassembly, but it lets us see kind of why it failed. Look at those contacts, they're all super worn down. It just looks kind of gross in there, so I'm sure it was reading wrong for a while. I mean, it was. I always had to kind of mess with it to get it into park, but no more of that, hopefully. So let's reverse of disassembly and get the new sensor on. So what I always do when installing new parts, I always compare the two and make sure they're exactly the same so I don't end up doing the same job twice. So I'm gonna go ahead and break the new sensor open just to check and make sure the innards are the same. I'm joking. I'm joking. Don't do that. Well, I mean, I guess do whatever you want. I'm not your dad. It probably wouldn't hurt to clean up the threads a little bit on there just so it goes on a little easier. So I got the majority of it back together, you know, 2 5mm Allens back in, the big nut on, threads cleaned up. I didn't worry about torquing it because, I'm in the rust bed, it'll torque itself after about one winter. But remember that little clip I told you not to lose? Well, guess what? I lost it. So in true shipbox form, zip ties it is. Gave her the old crisscross applesauce on that thing, so I'm gonna throw it back together and I'm gonna make sure that the zip ties don't impede the movement on the gear shifter and make sure this works. And after that, your neutral safety switch is replaced, except I had a little bit of a hiccup. It's not too big, it's just, you know, the fucking shift cable broke, so